another session. Anne called me in and said, Simon would like you to come on the session with him in the Coach House studios. And the session is going to be 6 weeks long, which seemed to be the norm. And it's going to be with the Stone Roses.
Was this Second Coming?
Second Coming session, yeah. So they'd obviously been at that album for a little while. Big fan of the band. Yeah. I was like, amazing. So straight from Sepultura to Stone Roses, a band that I loved. Because, I loved my rock music. I grew up listening to loads of rock music, going to rock gigs. Any guitar bands, basically. And then kind of got a bit lost with that kind of whole scene. And for me, those bands, the Stone Roses and all those other Manchester bands, were that bridge between what was cool and what was happening and the guitar music that I loved. So became a massive fan of theirs straight away, and they booked in for 6 weeks. That was how long we thought they were going to be there for.
How long was the session in total then? Was it 14 months?
Yeah, so for 14 months. They kept on adding a couple of weeks on here, a couple of weeks on there. And in the end, Rockfield just went, you know what, just let us know when you're finished. So they just stopped booking anyone else in. Because it soon became clear we weren't going to get it finished in 6 weeks. They just kept on booking time on. But 14 months, which for me was amazing because there wasn't much work going on. We played a lot of football, spent a lot of time in the pub, and the studio was empty a lot of the time. So Simon took the time with me to just kind of mentor me and train me to how to produce and engineer, basically. So he had all this time, and he could have easily just gone home, spent time with his young family that he had at the time, or he could have gone to the pub with the guys, which we all did a bit of that. But he took a lot of time to go through everything, as did Paul Schroeder, the producer, because there was hours and hours of nothing happening. So Simon would give me manuals for all the equipment, say, read this one, show me how to splice the tapes, showed me what I needed to do every morning, get how to prep the studio, which I still find frustrating now that assistants don't prep the studios properly every morning. But it was a massive part of the job, making sure that was ready every morning for the band before they kicked off.
You're saying that obviously, I remember on the documentary they talk about the Stone. I think you talk about it the Stone Roses popping off to Manchester on the weekends, and taking tapes with them.
Yeah. So that was when the record label were flying in from LA. So we couldn't play them anything. Everyone else would bugger off, and they'd come, and then it would be, what can we hear? We're like, nothing. There's no tapes. There's nothing you can't hear. There's no band here. And then the weekends when they were away, what was great for me was Simon would say, look, studio's empty, the band are away, bring your band in. It's the only way you're going to get to become an engineer quickly, and fast track is to learn the studio, and the only way to learn the studio is really just to use it to its full potential. So my band were all massive Roses fans as well. So for them, it was like, they're getting to come in. They're on Rennie's drums. We got John's amps, Manny's bass amps. We set up. We're using the Roses gear. We'd spend the weekends there recording our own stuff, and I'd just be muddling my way through it because I didn't really still know what I was doing. Only the bits that I'd picked up. But for me, it was amazing because I could fault find without the stress and the pressures of recording a band, because it was my own band and it was free, and they were just buzzing to be in Rockfield. Yeah. So it meant I could fault find, really figure out how the studio works, how the signal paths work, what was the best way for workflow, things like that, changing mics, setting things up. I could mess around with EQs. Back then it was Total Recall on the desk, so I could EQ and change everything and then just put it back afterwards. But we did that for the 14 months. So it really, really fast-tracked me into becoming an engineer, because I was just doing it all the time in this massive studio. So then there was those opportunities during the session when there was a few days here and there that I would work with other bands as well then.